Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Professor Spira, and I welcome you to another edition of Professor Spira's Office Hour. And thank you for tuning in, plugging in, and you know, there's so much going on. There's so much going on right now in the world, in the world of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. The Arnold Arrett, getting his message out there just a little bit further to folks that are truly ready and interested to hear what he has to say. And let's see here. So what I wanted to actually do right now, okay, here we go. So I want to go over a few announcements, and okay, all right, let's do this. All right, so let's get to it. So I get these announcements. I just sent this out. I meant to send out this newsletter earlier today, but I'm just did not have the time. Just really running around trying to get everything together, and it's hard to it's just hard to get things happening on time. But what's going on here? So the reason I want to go over this, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, be sure to do so. This is the Insiders Club newsletters, and I'm getting better about it. There was some months where I didn't send anything out, but right now I'm getting into a groove where I'm going to be sending out newsletters, at least a couple times a month, just with the announcements, and if there's something that great that happened or that I think was good that I posted up, we'll get that up there and put that in the newsletter. But so real important, if you are at all interested in the e-course, then you're going to want to sign up for the early bird pricing and early bird access if you have not done so yet, because this will be the last opportunity to get the e-course at the price that I'm going to allow the folks in the early bird to get it. The other thing that will be great for folks that really want to be a part of this, for the first class that goes through the e-course, we're going to go through it together. And for those that want to participate, I'm going to schedule meetings probably about once a week. I'll schedule a meeting, or kind of a classroom group meeting, and I will take questions and get feedback and talk about the e-course material. And so this is something that's this won't be available for in the future for the regular sessions of it, unless I do something special, but it definitely won't be at the early bird pricing. And this is something, I just really want to, the folks have been following me for so many years and it's getting here now, but really feel what we're doing and talking about. I really want you guys to be able to plug in, and I poured my heart and soul into this e-course for so long, and so I'm just happy. I'm so happy that it's done, and I want to share it with you guys. And I think the best way is right now, just this whole first class. We're just gonna have meetings and go over it, talk about it. You'll get a chance to ask me all your questions, all that kind of stuff. So this is the time. If you are listening to this now and you're at all interested in the e-course, then I encourage you to sign up for the early bird pricing and early bird access. And you can find a link down below. There should be a link that works down below. Also, I would like to confirm that we are going to have the Arnold Arrett Day celebration, and it is going to be on Saturday, July 28th, here in Columbus, Ohio. And so if you're interested in that, there's a number of folks that already signed up saying that they're interested, but now, we're getting close now. And this was, of course, something that This was actually Brother Air's idea. He came to me and we kind of talked about and threw this idea around in the past, but he really wanted to do it this year. He's just like, man, we just got to do something, even if it's just going live on YouTube. We really got to do something. And I said, you know what? Let's just, even if it's 2 or 3 people that come, let's put on an event. Let's put on an event at my house. So it's actually at my house in Columbus, Ohio. And so we're working out the details right now. If you sign up, we'll get you more information about the cost, because there will be a cost for the day. We're going to have speakers where your Brother Air, me, of course, but Takora is going to speak and talk about mucus-free motherhood. I think Sister Renee's got a great. You saw the Arid exercises. We're going to do a kind of make a dance out of some of those Arid exercises. From what I've heard, I'm just hearing it. So this is just a tidbit to get you excited about that. And there's going to be some other surprises. We're going to have some live music. The Arnold, what I'm calling right now the Arnold Arid tribute band. Me and Brother Air haven't agreed on the on the name of the group yet. We were hoping to be able to have Breath Aaron Ensemble, but some of the folks can't make it that day. So we're going to have Arnold Arid Tribute Band, which will have Breath Aaron Ensemble members in it. But how we like to do it, we like to celebrate through music and through song. So Arnold Arid Day Celebration 2018. If you're interested, look underneath. And of course, there'll be some traveling. If you don't live in in Ohio or Columbus, you had to get your plane ticket or jump in your RV or whatever it is that you do to come on down here. And we'll send you more information, like I said, next week with the logistics, and we'll have the solid layout of the schedule and all that kind of stuff. So that's coming up, but yeah, that should be fun. And so the main event is on Saturday, but on definitely on Sunday, maybe even on Friday, for folks that come in for that whole weekend. We're gonna be, we'll put together some kind of informal little get-togethers and hang out. We might go do a field trip somewhere or something. And I've had this idea of taking a group of people out to supermarket and kind of showing, like, here, this is how this is how we, when we go into a supermarket, how we deal with this. It's funny. There was a video where they had all these different types of supermarket consumers, and one of the types was the inspector, and so I posted that up to my Professor Spira page, because that's me. I'm the inspector, and we all kind of like that. Go in and analyze the fruit and the vegetables and whatever it is we're buying, reading the label, just making sure it's happening. And so that's coming up. That will be end of the month. So look forward to that, and sign up if you're interested in for that. Join the Mucus-free Life team. We had our first team meeting last week, or I guess week and a half ago, and I'm really excited to start really plugging in with the folks. I've sent out applications so that the first group of people that signed up, I created an application, which I hope doesn't scare anybody away, because once I get to writing things down and I'm trying to think through all the different angles, it can get kind of not that it's super long. I could just see how somebody opens it up and be like, oh man, there's a lot of but I was trying to be detailed about the different roles and the different things that we need help with. But because even for instance, I'm just thinking of like how I could have used help today, because when you're doing everything behind the scenes, lots of times you don't really know, unless you do this kind of thing, you don't know how much work it takes, or because you have to think of everything. If every little thing has to be thought of. But for me, if I had a little bit of help, even for like today, somebody could have sent out the message earlier, like I just 5 minutes ago I sent out the message announcing this live stream. Somebody that could have been their task for that day. It's like, okay, I'm gonna promote the live stream. Boom, let me put this out to the network. So that's the kind of stuff. Basically 3 different areas where I'm looking to have help was like social media, community building and marketing, then media production, which would be actually creating videos and video editing and images and music editing, all that kind of just creating stuff, and then administrative assistance to help kind of organize and get things together. If you do, this is the first video of the first meeting, the replay video, which will be in everybody's newsletter if you are on the newsletter, and then of course I talk about the office hour that you are currently watching. So that is that's what is going on there, and yeah. And so one thing I'm excited about is I recently, talking about the e-course, I'm putting the finishing touches. Everything is finally done. I'm actually going through the entire e-course myself. I'm just going through the whole thing and just editing and making sure everything, proofreading and stuff. But there's one video, I'm kind of excited about sharing the welcome video, which is the intro video, which I put some things in there that people have never seen before, and some interesting stories, and just kind of talking about my own journey. And so I want to. I think I'm gonna play a few minutes of this clip of this, because I think it's this. So I just kind of talked about because part of this is like a get to know the professor, and there's some things that I talk about in this video that I've never really talked too much about before publicly, or there's a couple personal things I kind of get into. I kind of open up a little bit in this video, and I try to just let people really know where I'm coming from. Because a lot of people know that I ate bad and this kind of stuff, and I had some family members that were sick and that kind of thing. But I try to went back into the archive and got old pictures and all kinds of stuff. And so I think that the point in the video here, I'm gonna show where, let's see. So this is talking about this is after my mother passed away, and I'm kind of talking about how instead of becoming kind of a bad kid that would do bad in school and just kind of be not be a good kid, I became kind of like an overachiever. I just really did a whole lot of stuff. So I'm gonna just share this clip because I feel like it. So I want to. So check this out. So this is from the first video, which I think I'm gonna release tomorrow. This is the first video of the e-course. Achiever just tries to do everything. And that was me. I was a part of a ton of different organizations, and from the Boy Scouts of America to plays in school, to football, to wrestling, to basketball, soccer, refereed soccer, and was an umpire. I just go with this long list of stuff that I used to do. And for as active as I was sick all the time. So I used to constantly go through boxes of tissues, and I would come to school because I didn't like to miss school. I had this obsession with trying to always have perfect attendance. And so I would show up to school with boxes of tissue, and I'd be over there blowing my nose, kids looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you stay home? And there was a couple times I was actually sent home. I was so sick that they sent me home. They had sent me to the nurse, and the nurse would take my temperature, and I'd have a temperature, and they'd just say, look, your parents need to come pick you up. You need to go home. I just wasn't gonna let being sick all the time get in my way. It's like I said, I just thought that was no big deal. That's just how things were. There was no cure for anything. You take these pills and you just do what you need to do. So in high school, I continued to be very active, a lot of different things. At the age of 15, I became an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America, and I got a Vigil Honor in the Order of the Arrow, which is an honors organization that's affiliated with the Boy Scouts. I was a varsity football player, and by the end of my high school, I was about 240 pounds. So I worked out all the time being a varsity athlete, but I was having all these issues. And I remember it was one football game where I had bronchitis. I was actually playing football while I had this bronchitis, which was that was one of the craziest things that I did. I just remember feeling so terrible being out there trying to play football, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And you can see here how big I was. I played offensive line. I was an offensive tackle or offensive guard, depending on the years that I played. But my real love all throughout junior high, high school, and even elementary school was music. And I played trombone. I started playing trombone when I was in the 5th grade. And when it came time to decide what I wanted to do in college, I just, knowing how much I really love music, I decided that that's what I wanted to pursue. I wanted to become a professional musician. And even though there were some music teachers that said, well, don't go to school just for performance, you have to get a degree where you can fall back on something. So get a music ed degree or something like that. But I was like, no, I want to become a player. I want to really become a great player and then figure things out from there. And so I got admitted into the College and Conservatory of Music, University of Cincinnati, and I went there, and it was one of the most rigorous academic programs in any music school. I mean, it's just renowned for just academically, it's very intense. And so it really pushed me incredibly hard to develop some academic muscles that I would not have otherwise developed if I hadn't gone there. So that first year of being in school, I did take the time to go out of school and go to local jam sessions and other things like that, local music events to play with older musicians. And that's where I met Willie Smart, aka Brother Air. And I knew him for almost a year before he told me about the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And I'll never forget, me and my friend were all together at this jam session at Chez Nora. And it was in between sets, and they had this free food sitting over there. And so, me and my friend went and got this big plate. I got all these chicken wings and all this stuff. And Brother Air sitting across from us. And so I'm sitting here eating this stuff, and we just see this look on his face, and he's just kind of like, he's got to tell us. And so he starts telling us about the Mucusless Diet Healing System and what he's done at that time, what he had done for the past 20 years. He practiced a diet over 20 years at that point. Slowly but surely, we both started getting slower and slower as we were eating this food. I knew that this sounded like what I'd been looking for. I went and got a copy of the Mucusless Diet book, and it just changed everything. After I read that book, it changed the way that I thought, my course of my life. Everything was just totally transformed. And I started practicing the diet, and I took my time with it, and I wasn't hard on myself. I just applied the principles, and within 6 months, I lost over 100 pounds, and I noticed that I didn't need to take medications anymore. So I stopped taking the pharmaceutical medications that I'd taken since I was 7 years old. I saw it happen right before my eyes. Just looking in the mirror, I was just transforming into what looked like somebody else. And that's what a lot of people said, that people that had went to high school with me or that knew me before, they thought I looked so much different. So around this time, I start spending a lot more time with Brother Air, and there's a small community of people in Cincinnati that practiced the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And so I just start hanging out with other Mucusless Diet practitioners and learn as much as I could about everybody's experiences. I would just pick people's brain, that whether they were people that practiced the diet for a long period of time or people that had tried to practice the diet but failed. I talked to anybody and everybody that had anything to do with the diet, and I kind of downloaded and absorbed all this information from people's personal experiences, and I just kind of took it all in. And I when I was practicing, I stayed quiet. I didn't really tell a lot of people what I was doing. I just stayed quiet, practiced the Mucusless Diet Healing System, practiced my trombone, studied, and that was my path. The next significant mark was when Brother Aaron and I started a band, and that is where Professor Spira, as you see him right now, came about.
Trombone major Michael Goki likes to take his music and his message to places most jazz musicians don't venture. In addition to music, Michael's interested in healthy living. That's why he wanted to play in the smoke-free, alcohol-free atmosphere of UC's Alley Cat Cafe.
I practice something called the Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret, and I've been practicing that diet about 2 years, and it really changed my life. You know, I was kind of on the other side of things, and now I'm really, focused on this thing, and this gives me an opportunity to promote, health and spread the awareness of this diet, because a lot of people don't know about this, and the information I have could be very, very beneficial to a lot of people. So any opportunity I get to expose folks to this diet is what I feel like what I'm trying to do.
Michael said some of the other members of his jazz group practiced this mucus-free diet. Michael said he lost 120 pounds on the diet. We picked Michael as the subject of our Uptown Profile, a regular feature we are starting today, about students who are doing amazing things.
So after practicing the diet, all right. So I'm hoping that you can see it. I think I looked at the chat, and there's some folks that saying that it's lagging, and I was trying to get this hooked up, and sometimes YouTube is problematic in terms of with the broadcast and stuff. So hopefully it's getting out there, and you are able to you're able to see this okay. I don't think it's broadcasting. I have it set to broadcast in HD, but for some reason it is not doing that. But so I wanted to share that. I know it's kind of a long clip, for the live show here, but I just wanted to let you guys see it first, and then, like I said, the whole clip, the whole video, I'll be posting up pretty soon, and so you can get a chance to see the full quality. But that last clip, that was I had to dig into the the VHSs. I had to go and digitize a VHS tape to get that old interview. That's the first interview. That's the first interview of Professor Spira, because I think Professor Spira was kind of born on that day, I would say, and so that was just back down memory lane, and so let's see. Let me check I'm gonna do a quick. I'll check the. Let's see here, the live chat. So a couple people said it's buffering, and so it's hopefully right now it says that the stream is good, that the stream status is good, so that's a good sign, hopefully. So hopefully you are able to see it. What I want to do right now is let's start going over some of these Q&As. And I'm going ahead and hit the... So this week I threw together, and I really did it today, I threw together a PowerPoint presentation. And so let me get this rolling here. There we go. All right, so this is my Q&A. So I wasn't not able to get to every question, but I try to get through a few of them. I'm not gonna read the disclaimer, but you can pause this, and this is officially disclaimed of anything I say. But so Q&A. Norma asks, I started my diet 3 months ago. I know that it is the best, but sometimes I'm hungry and I eat the wrong foods. How can I concentrate on the right foods? So that is a great question. So actually, I didn't get this. Let me show you. There's a list that I made a list of foods that's just kind of my own personal list. It's not I might even showed it last week. Let me find it here. Pop it both. So I would say find this list and go over all the different foods that are on there and kind of read through it and find, especially the stuff toward the bottom of the list, the things that we call mucus lean. And you're gonna want to find things that satisfy you, that yes, might be mucus forming, but they eliminate better than other stuff. There's some things that just eliminate better than other things. And so up in the front, we got my favorite fruits and dried fruits. Then my favorite raw and cooked vegetables. So yes, I mean, you've seen that a lot. But what's important in terms of cravings, when you start to really crave stuff and you need something to get you, get over the hump, get you over the hump, get you over the mountain to the next level, you got to dig into the mucus lean stuff. It's not taking a step back. It is not. It's not taking a step back. It's not cheating. It's not none of these little weird concepts that have nothing to do with the mucusless diet that people have invented. A lot of raw foodists and vegans and stuff have created these little concepts that is like, oh, this is my cheat day, or it's like, oh well, I'm I don't know. That let go of all that. That to me, that doesn't help. That's not, because you're not cheating. It's called the Mucusless Diet Healing System. It's part of the basically eating mucus is part of the system. So that anybody that reads the book would know that, that would be apparent but I gotta say that because it's like, it's okay. I just want to let you know it's okay to eat mucus-forming foods. If you're interested in Arnold Ehret's work and the mucusless diet path, it's okay to eat mucus-forming foods. It's okay to eat cooked foods within the context of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. It's okay to, and for some people in the beginning, it's even okay to have non-plant-based items. As Ehret talked about the cottage cheese and using a little bit of raw egg to make a mayonnaise and stuff. So these are all things within the realm of the healing system. And we go through different plateau points. And it's smart to visit all of those little areas. So in terms of the mucus lean items, some of my stuff that I would use over the years, beans, that was an important transitional item to me. There's some people that would, because that's the other thing. Everybody has their own little pet thing that they despise. And a lot of communities are based around the things that are not allowed. Because I still get that question all the time. What's allowed? Am I allowed to eat such and such? It's like, you can eat what you want. This has nothing to do with you being allowed or not allowed. This is not that type of I mean, I don't care, you know, what you do, you know, what you do, as long as you ain't hurting somebody, then, you know, and I would prefer people to be on the plant-based tip so they're not hurting the animals and the earth and all that kind of stuff. That's all great. But as far as your business, at your business, if you are interested in Arnold Ehret's work and dealing with the transition, I implore you to not just pick and choose a little bit of what you like, what sounds kind of interesting to you out of the Mucusless Diet book. Really get in there and deal with those menus, deal with those transition diet protocols. And when you do that, it's gonna get you into this systematic kind of realm. So beans, that was something that I'm cool with for transition. Again, the key is I never ever ate beans by themselves. I always had it with big salad or big cooked vegetables or something like that. The nuts and seeds, that can be wonderful if you're going to work or something and you need a little pick me up or a little stimulation or something. Get some nuts and raisins or some kind of and I used. And in the beginning of the diet, I used like filthy nuts. The ones that, you know, I was eating like Planters nuts with raisins, you know, and then as I evolved, I got a little bit more, I cared more about the quality of when I did go back to the nuts, you know, to the point where the last time that I really dealt with nuts, it was, I was eating the raw nuts with no salt on them, or the baked with no added oils and stuff. And so, but what happens here is there's a lot of people that get real hardcore. It disempowers people. The way that some folks come off with especially in the raw foods community, that I just don't understand how that's gonna turn people off with that kind of real like fascism. It's like this fascist kind of you ate Planters peanuts, you're to the gulag with you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Let people transition. Come on. Anyway, sorry. I'm talking to the raw food people that think that they're like so great, but they be like hard on people, you know, be like, you need to show people how to transition, show people how to transition and do so, through example, through yourself. That's key. But so anyway, check this out, the vegetarian, vegan, processed stuff. Ehret recommended the seitan in the original, that some of those things changed. If you go to the original 1924 edition, the earliest of early processed vegan meats are recommended on a couple cases, and so that's part of this thing. It's part of the transition. I don't like to promote. We prefer to try to promote and talk about the mucus-free side of it, but and it's just hard. It's hard to get into. That's been a challenge to get into the transition and really show the some of the items that we don't recommend, because as soon as you show something on this type of platform, then nobody has, a lot of people, some people do, but a lot of people don't have the discernment to say, okay, well that's okay for that person's transition, but that's not for me at this moment. Instead, some people will attack and say, like, you ate soy burger with a salad? That's not, it's like, yeah, but did you read the Mucusless Diet? There was an example of a menu where you're basically, it was before soy, so they were using the wheat gluten based fake meat stuff. I imagine that stuff tasted like horror, that there was nothing good about it. They really didn't make a lot of that fake meat stuff taste like anything until the 90s, and then going into the, by the time I got into diet in the early 2000s, there was a few things that you could kind of make be tasty. And I used soy burgers, I used nature burger, I used a number of processed things. But how can I say that that was part of my transition into mucusless diet? I was systematically using those things. I would always had big salad. Was doing my enemas, regularly. So that stuff wasn't able to sit. The mucus-forming foods that I was putting in wasn't able to sit, and over time, my desire for them just left. I don't want that no more. And so that's the thing. You want to get to the point where you don't crave those things, don't want them. Even the stuff like I use soy butter the first early, and I talk more about this stuff in Spira Speaks, my book. Good old Spira Speaks here. So I do get into some case studies, and I talk a little bit more in depth about some of the mucus lean kind of items and things that I use. But everything on here. I have my little vegan. You can go through a little vegan baked goods period. Where you're like, man, I'm craving it. I'm a cookie. Or I think Brother Air went through his little donut period. People like Dr. Morris talk about, when he went and got a malt, way years into what he was doing, he'd go and get a malt or and this was like a one-time thing or a candy bar or something. Everybody, that's like everybody, most everybody I know along this path, they, that's part of it. So what I'm saying is, make that part of your understanding of transition. That's part of this thing. And don't be hard on yourself. So hopefully that answers that. Just find more things that you can eat that you like. Experiment. The baked banana surprise, I got that on the website. Stuff like the baked acorn squash is very filling, and it eliminates well. Because when we say eliminate well, that means when you go into the bathroom, it's coming through, and when you wipe, there's not a whole lot of residue to even wipe, and that's letting you know you're getting closer to that mucus-free kind of stuff, because there's not a lot of residue that's there. And I can tell you just from experience, when I'm eating mostly mucus-free versus if I'm eating something that's mucus-forming, when I sit down to wipe after a bowel movement, there's a lot more wiping that I got to do when I'm eating the mucus-forming foods, because it's leaving behind that mucus slimy film in the colon and intestines that's not totally eliminating. And again, and one of these times I need to make a video that really gets into another video, because there's got one already, but there's a difference between lymph and mucus from mucus-forming foods. We're not talking about an idea of you eat a food and then it causes a lymphatic response. That's not what mucus-forming foods, the definition that we use of mucus-forming foods, that's not the focus. The focus is there are foods that will degrade into slime, and then there's foods that don't. Now, some people will argue and say, yeah, but the body is designed to handle all of these things that we put in, and they got the hydrochloric acid, and you got all the gastric chemistry and stuff, and so you put this stuff in, and it dissolves, and you're all well and good. Well, the problem is that it doesn't all dissolve. Now, if you're eating it in minute, and Eric talks about this, if you're eating mucus-forming foods in small quantities, then there is a better chance of that you're going to have not as much residue left over. But when you start to get into the diets that are out here now, or these kind of the one-sided meat diets and the big starchitarian diets and that kind of stuff, that's not a some of it breaks down, but there's a lot of it that doesn't. And there's even a video, I won't show it now, but they had put a camera in somebody's stomach, and you can find some of these, but their thing was processed food. So they had put this camera in the stomach of somebody that was eating ramen noodles, and it went through the whole digestive cycle to show that this stuff was not digesting at all. It was just, it would get it would start to get more mushy, and but it wasn't disappearing and wasn't going away. And you can imagine as it goes back through, that stuff is just creates more and more slime. And so it's not the end of the world to eat these things, but it is the end of the world that they don't come out, and you get so constipated and this stuff sits in there for decades, and you start to have some serious problems. And all right, so let's get to the next question. Sky says, Spira, thoughts on cayenne, pepper, and other herbs and spices that stimulate the mucosa. I've seen many health practitioners recommend small amounts to be used to help kickstart the flow of mucus under the intention of exfiltration. Can cayenne help elimination of deep tissue mucus and lymphatic waste? In my opinion, no, in experience and observation, no, that's not the direction to go, to rely on something like that. There's things that are astringent, and then there's things that irritate the mucosa. So that becomes the question: what items, whether they be herbs or spices or whatever, what is truly astringent that will get in and promote a mucosal elimination that's positive, and what is going to irritate the mucosa. And when you irritate it the right way, that's when so that's why you get the cayenne pepper, and you start have to blow your nose and that kind of stuff. In my opinion, that was more of a and same thing like the jalapeno pepper and all that kind of stuff, where people, it's one thing to use that as a transitional thing. If you really crave hot peppers, some people go through like a hot pepper period where they go hot pepper crazy, and that's part of the transition. But to try and use that like medicinally, as if you're really moving all this mucus and all this stuff around with these kind of real potent things, I don't really subscribe to that. It has its place, but I'm not a fan of there's like the so-called master cleanse and all that, where they would add cayenne pepper to drinks and stuff. I'm not about that. Sometimes if there are instances where some of that can create a little bit of circulation. And that, so, but again, it really depends on the person's physiology, because that would not be for everybody. Earlier on, it might be something that could be used in that capacity, but I would say it's best that we kind of move away from those kinds of things, because there's no rush. We're not going to dig deep, using these kind of things. Time has to roll on. And when you start talking about the tissues and the lymphatic waste, I mean, your fruits and your astringent fruits with the limes and the lemons and the citrus stuff, that's going to be more along the lines of being able to do that. But you also got to throw in the broom salads and those materials and stuff like that. And so that's that. I'm not a fan, unless you're like I said. Now, if you're using it as a condiment, now last week I talked about condiments and Eric's perspective of condiments. If you're using it in that capacity, then that's one thing. I think that's okay, because you're using it you're not trying to use it to eliminate mucus. You're just using it to kind of mask the bland flavor of vegetables or whatever it is that you're into, and just kind of to kick those up a notch. So that's my perspective on that. Flora asks, how come some women lose their menstrual cycle when on a Mucusless diet? What should be eaten to avoid that problem? So what I wanted to do is actually read read a part from Rational Fasting and the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So let me bear with me while I cue that up a little bit. And so I think what I say now, page, is that 90? Yeah, 91 of this edition. This is the edition. This is the PDF edition of Rational Fasting, which you can buy on Mucus-free-life.com. So, so this is the story of Teresa Mitchell, and she wrote a few articles that were not in the original Rational Fasting which was more of a pamphlet or a very small book. But somewhere, I think by the 50s, I'd have to do a little research and pinpoint the actual, see if I could find the first edition that includes the Teresa Mitchell stories as well as the Fred Hirsch stories. And so these were articles that were added by Fred Hirsch. If you go to the Benedict Lust editions, then then you won't there's actually be other articles. The Benedict Lust editions have some other articles that you won't find in any of the Erit literature stuff, and so these are kind of geeky Erit stuff. But so down here, this is a personal experience from this Teresa Mitchell. Within myself, I knew all was well, and I continued eating my fruit meals. Other seemingly unexplained experiences followed. My feeling of well-being was boundless. I knew I was now completely restored to perfect health. I had arrived at my long hoped for goal. No aches and pains, no physical discomfort of any kind, no headaches, no colds. This might be a good time to mention another of the experiences that were occurring to me. My menstrual periods only occurred at 6-month intervals. And when they did come, I felt no nervous reaction or mental depression, and absolutely no pain whatsoever. So this is, so they didn't totally disappear, just the interval changed. The interval changed to 6 months. Now I must say this issue is very unique, definitely unique to every person that practices this diet, every woman that practices this diet, because I've never heard two women that have the same experience and the same story. There's some women that do have their interval of their menses will change a little bit. There's some that the intervals don't change, but they become like perfect 28-day little periods, and also, as long as they're eating mostly mucus-free, they won't have a whole lot of, they won't feel a whole lot of the negative effects. And then there's some people that do kind of, they appear to disappear, yet they can still have children. And one example, well, we'll have to talk to Cora. There's a video that I need to finish where Cora, who's a woman that's practiced Mucusless diet for a lot of years. I'll show you a little picture of Takora here. So this was an interview that Takora did with Brother Air. You can find this on the YouTube channel. And I got clips on the YouTube channel. If you actually want to see the full unedited version, I think there's a way to sign up below it where you can actually get access to the full unedited version of Takora. But she had a very pioneering woman practicing the Mucusless diet, is probably listening right now. What's up, Dakota? But had children, practiced the Mucusless diet over 40 years, and had children, raised children on the Mucusless diet, and has more energy than I think anybody I know. Can leap tall trees in a single bound. Whereas last year she, ran up this tree and climbed this tree that we were having. But so in the annotated Mucusless diet, let's take a look at what Erit was talking about here, and let's see. This isn't it. What page did I say? 143. Oh, whoops, that's not the, oh, okay, I see what I did. The actual 143 on this edition has the page numbers on it. Okay, so in the controversial, we'll put that out there, just disclaimer, and a lot of this is, some of this is philosophical, based on Erit's observations, so make of it what you will. But Eric says that if the female body is perfectly clean through this diet, the menstruation disappears. In scriptures, it is called by the significant word purification, which it in fact is. It is clean and no longer polluted by the monthly flow of impure blood and other waste. This is the ideal condition of an inside a purity capable of immaculate conception. When seen in the light of this truth, the entire Madonna mystery is easily understood. Every one of my female patients reports their menses as becoming less and less than a 2, 3, and 4 month intermission, and finally entirely disappearing. The latter condition was experienced by those who went through a perfect cleansing process by this diet. So that's what Eric had to say on that. So he looks at it as a good thing. You know, I'm saying that because this is, you know, it's very touchy, it's very touchy kind of subject here. My thing is to focus on the transition, focus on, you know, not trying to go too fast, and really explore what your body is doing, and kind of observe and let your body really tell its story and do what it's kind of go through its process. But all I can say is from what I, you know, talking to people that I know personally, that women that practice the Mucusless diet, the one thing that was constant, like I said, some continued to have them every 28 days. Others, it would maybe be every other month. But at least one of them I know had a child, so they continued to be fertile. And there was and the one consistent piece is that whenever the diet was getting too far in the wrong kind of mucus direction, then the symptoms would be worse. You know, the symptoms would not would noticeably be heavier. You know, heavier flow and cramping and all that stuff would be a lot worse. So that's that. And like I said, we're going to get some more to Cora talking about these things and her experiences, because she's kind of a wealth of knowledge with all of this this topic. Susan asks, please explain kidney filtering, how to know if we are filtering and what to do to improve filtering. Many thanks for all your insights to the system. So let's look at what Eric had to say. There's a few different quotes where Eric talks about the kidney filtration, and so let's bring this back up, and we're looking at page 11. Let's see, is it the real page 11? This 11. Okay. So first, this little quote, Eric says, as soon as anyone decreases their eating, fasts a little, or changes over to a natural diet, he or she has waste, mucus, poison, uric acid, phosphates, and so on in their urine. And an analysis of this urine is alarming. The same thing happens in the majority of cases whenever anyone becomes sick. Everyone becomes alarmed at this effort of the body to eliminate waste, which is in truth the healing and cleansing process. So let's take a look at an example. So I actually talked about this. If you want to check out, there's an Arnold Ehret on kidney filtration where what I'm talking about now, I did a kind of a whole video on it. But so let's take a look. So there's a number of you can go online and find some of, especially coming out of the Dr. Morris camp, there's a kind of a club of sharing the urine and the waste. So you can see, and this happens when when you fast. Eric talks about the kidneys as a sieve. It's kind of as all this waste is loosens up through the body and ends up down in the kidneys, it just squeezes it out. So you get this mucus, you get all this waste out of there. If you know anything about me, I'm not a fan of there's the urine drinking people and the folks that the urine stuff. Not for me. You can call me closed-minded and ignorant or whatever, but I'm just, based on what Eric, just if nothing else, based on Eric said, whatever you eliminate is waste. we're not supposed to put it back in our body. So things, sometimes it can take a while to get the kidneys filtering. With Erit, the process is follow the transition and the fasting recommendations. Erit recommends short-term fasting periods. So Erit's fasting is, you do a 2 to 3 day fast, and then you eat mucus-free, and maybe you have a couple mucus-lean items in there. But you sort of shift back and forth between the short fast, the mucus-free eating, and as you go through that, your body starts to transform, and your kidneys are going to get stronger and be able to squeeze out this waste. Especially if you have a really good fast. Let's see. I'll read this other 116. Also, and this is in fasting lesson 28. That's not 28. That's 18. This goes on for the first few days, and you may even feel fine, but then the obstructions of the circulation become greater because the diameter of the avenues becomes smaller, and the blood must circulate through many parts of the body, especially in the tissues and at and around the symptom. Again, sticky mucus pressed out and dissolved from the inside walls. In other words, the bloodstream must overcome, dissolve, and carry with itself mucus and poisons for elimination through the kidneys. And if you drink only water during a fast, the human mechanism cleanses itself the same as though you would press out a dirty, watery sponge. But the dirt in this instance is sticky mucus, and in many cases pus and drugs, which must pass through the circulation until it is so thoroughly dissolved that it can pass through the fine structure of the physiological sieve called kidneys. And so things that I know have helped me, there's a green juice recipe, which is really a red juice because I put beets in there. And it's kind of Brother Eric showed me a recipe, and then it's kind of my version of that. But really just the general green drinks with cucumber and celery, just the vegetable juices, and I throw a beet in there, parsley, and maybe some other aromatic herbs or something. I'll throw some dill in there. But using those green drinks for a period of time every day, and when I get in kind of a green drink mode, I will juice every single day. I will do the green drink, and I will notice that my kidneys generally start to I can see more waste coming out in the kidneys. And so it's not something to obsess about. You shouldn't look into the toilet every time you go to the bathroom. Well, you can look every time, but it's not something I advise you to become obsessed about, because that's never good. It's not what we it's not what we promote. But it's just one other tool, just like analyzing the tongue. It's just a tool to examine the elimination, looking at the bowel movements, what kind of things might be in there, and so it's just a tool of a diagnostic tool. So hopefully that helps out a little bit there. So Nature asks, are there any historic pics of Fred Hirsch that you found in your research? And there is. And if you go to the article, Vegan Diet, Mucus-free, the original vegan diet, which again I have to explain, Mucusless Diet Healing System. The system, there are a few things that are not plant-based that's in the system. When you get to the level of mucus-free is inherently a vegan diet, and it's what you would presumably transition yourself toward if that was your goal, was to one day be mucus-free. If that was not, it's not everybody's goal, but if it was, then you would be ultimately you'd become plant-based at a certain point if you're going down that path. So anyway, you can read this article. I get into that whole thing because that's kind of a controversial idea. Because on one hand, Eret was just written out of the whole history of veganism when they look back at the just plant-based eating and vegetarianism. They just skip over that entire period of time that was influenced by Eret's work in the 20s and 30s. But yeah, you can read that, and I've talked about that before. But anyway, down here we get down to Fred Hirsch. So these are various pictures that I've collected. Some of these come from the Cause and Cure of Human Illness 2001 edition. But here's Fred Hirsch. So this is actually, I was gifted this from the former owner of Eret Literature, which is a vintage Eret Health Club newsletter from 1935. So I don't know if you can see this, but that's where this picture comes from. And so I scanned this, and that became kind of the Fred Hirsch picture, because there really is, I mean, Fred Hirsch is, it is hard to find information on Fred Hirsch. I mean, there's just not a whole lot of stuff that's left. Now, unfortunately, I had gotten some more information about Fred and his Highland Heights resort in the, there's a history that you'd have to read, I forget when it was actually, but in the late 1920s, Fred acquired some land and he created a resort. And at that resort, a lot of famous people came, and it was the I would say world renowned. It was, see, the thing about Eret and then Fred Hirsch after is elite people have often known about Eret. And so some of the celebrities, Hirsch knew a lot of celebrities. A lot of celebrities were into the Mucusless Diet Healing System, or they were at least into Eret stuff. So, people like Albert Einstein used to go to Fred Hirsch's Highland Springs Resort. Who else? Bob Hope, Elizabeth Taylor, Ernest Hemingway, Roy Rogers. These were all people that knew about Eret and the Mucusless Diet, obviously, because Hirsch had a program that was, kind of revolved around Mucusless Diet to a certain extent, but it was kind of like a getaway resort slash, I don't know how much sanitarium work he did, with fasting people and stuff, but problem is there used to be a history page on it. You can see now that's been taken down. What I did was using the Wayback Machine, which is a great little tool. I went back and found the original article that I read that talks about the Highland Springs Resort. So if you want to read this article, you probably have to go back. What I actually might do is take this and then post it up, since they took it down, unless they relocated somewhere. But so Highland Heights Resort, they got the history here, and they talk about how essentially, let's see where. Essentially how Fred Hirsch went when he bought it, because he didn't buy it to the 20s. But this is a picture. This is a picture. This is Fred Hirsch here. So this is, to direct answer to your question, this would be one of the only other pictures that I've seen of Fred Hirsch besides the pixelated little head that you really can't see his figure. But this is Fred Hirsch here. It says in 1927, Fred and William Hirsch, his brother, bought the old Smith place, renamed it Highland Springs Resort, and developed it into a health resort. Fred Hirsch himself was made healthy through following the philosophy of Professor Arnold Eret, who was an early proponent of juice fasting and colon cleansing. The restaurant on the resort was vegetarian, and Hirsch grew a lot of the produce served at the restaurant on the property. He also grew his own grapes and operated a small vineyard, and the resort became known as the last resort, as many sick people who were not able to get well with traditional methods were able to get healthy through Hirsch's health practices while staying at the resort. That's remarkable, and this is a remarkable story, and this is what happens when you try to access it. Not found. This stuff has been so buried And it just continues to be. You have to use the Wayback Machine. See, they didn't know about the Wayback Machine. When all these figures, they know that you're gonna be able to go back and look all this stuff up if you want. Because if it wasn't for this Wayback Machine, this whole article would be gone. It's got some great pictures, and so I'm gonna retrieve this myself. I think I'll probably, if I confirm that this is not posted up anywhere else, I'm gonna go on ahead and post this up on Mucus-free Life, because this is an excellent history. Right here, Dr. Albert Einstein was a regular guest at the Highland Heights Resorts in the 1930s. He was known to be close friends with the Hirsch family, and during his visit to Caltech, he would always visit the resort in his personal time. Other notable historical figures: Bob Hope, Elizabeth Taylor, Ernest Hemingway, Roy Rogers, and then there was some. I think Hirsch. Did he know the? I think Ronald Reagan's daughter was into Hirsch, and Alvin told me a story where she did an interview, and the interviewer asked her, "Well, what do you think about health and diet?" And then she said, "Professor Arnold Ehret. Check that out." Like, that was all she said. And this is a story, I haven't seen it, but this is according to Alvin Last, who owned Ehret Publishing up in from the 1970s to 2011, and so these are just pictures. That's a picture of the resort, and yeah. So that's that. You can find that, and but there's not a lot. I've been thinking about putting together. I need to put together a little Fred Hirsch biography, and at least get that out there, because there's just not a whole lot of information on him. I have found like his birth records and his death certificate, that kind of stuff, on the doing some of those search engines like the Ancestry.com and things. So I actually created an Arnold Ehret family tree at one point. On there, and so there's just research to do. It's just some stuff that needs to be done to kind of find that. And I know you had a question about Vic. I'm gonna table that. We actually, Brother Aaron, Takora, and I last year shot a video. It was like a 2-hour long discussion about Vic, and so I'm gonna table that, because it's such a heavy discussion. He was just such a heavy cat, so we're gonna table that. And we'll get into that when I release that video. And I think I'm winding down here. There's not too many more questions, and I hope the feed is still cool and everything is going well out there, because I can't monitor I could probably bring up let me check what you guys are talking about here. The chat room. Yeah, and I like going through these, so like last time, I'm gonna go through those. Good, back up there. I'm gonna go through some of those, some of what you guys are talking about here. So this is a heavy question, so I don't know how deep I'm gonna get into this at this moment, but I'm gonna throw it. We'll throw it out here, because I do like to, get into these things here. But question: the more I practice breathing techniques, the more I realize there's a great cleansing process. But since it is a cleansing process, a true clean human would not need it, which makes me question what we were before breatharians. Many look at breatharianism as the ultimate long-term goal, but what is above that? What did breatharians devolve from? So this would have been the kind of conversation that we had with Vic. But so this is all theoretical. It's all philosophical. So this is where, for folks that would want to try to use a sound clip to make you sound, like, oh, you guys are crazy, you talking about this. It's like, look, this is philosophy. So now we're exploring philosophical concepts here, and it's kind of if anything, for the people that this offends, I would say then I guess you think Star Wars is offensive, or the Bible is offensive, or the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, or any of these. There's stories that embed philosophies and different kind of moralistic and historical concepts and things in it. That's all that is. So with that kind of disclaimer there, I think that before, it's kind of like humans before carbon, and I know a lot of people like to study the concept of carbon. If we get into, there's this idea of light beings. So I often wonder if the iron in our blood, if that iron could be transmuted somehow, if that was possible, or if the blood was in the iron, because you look at the sun, there's a lot of iron. It's very hot in the sun. What if the iron in our blood was transmuted into and this is kind of an alchemy kind of concept, but this was transmuted into something that was with the same constituents, it's like you got the same elements, but it was transformed into something. You would have a kind of a light being, a radioactive kind of being that a human would not be able to even look at. And I should look it up. If I hadn't even thought of this to get it, maybe take a break and I'll look it up. But there's a Bible verse somewhere in the Old Testament where Moses is going to talk to what's termed God in the Bible, but there's like a statement where, because it was in a tent and God was facing the other direction, and it said, hey, why don't you turn around? And the God character in the story said, you wouldn't be able to handle it. And so there's this idea of what of radioactivity, and you'll hear Brother Air sometimes use terminology like that, and not many people understand what he's talking about, but he's trying to plant these seeds of this concept of what happens when there is no obstruction. What does the blood become? And Eric was kind of obsessed with the iron in the blood, and so that becomes an interesting thing to think about. The black hole concept. I used to have a quote on. I had to look that up. I think it's in Spira Speaks, but the black hole is just the idea of that within even in the definitions of it that are used. Item that is the most absorbent of energy, as well as the greatest emitter of energy, the black hole. And so there's this idea of humans being these little black holes. You're kind of running around because what holds us together? There's a gravity, some kind, this force that keeps all of our components and constituents into a particular form. But if you take all the space out of the form, the constituents wouldn't be that much. And I just seen that not that long ago on it was like this physics documentary or something that was talking about this. But so that's the thing. We're talking about transmutation, the transformation of the blood, and what is the potential of this transformation. Now, if you go even further, before blood or before iron, some people have this idea of beings of light, and light travelers, and that could actually have the physiology is a light being. Now we're getting out there, but again, I try to bring this discussion back to things that people that people can relate to, because we grew up with a lot of stories that in movies and media and things of this kind of stuff, of these ideas. But when we start to explore them within the context of what happens when you really transform your physiology. And I'm not talking about in your lifetime. I'm talking about what happens after 20 generations of serious transition back to humanity through a mucusless diet. 30 generations, 40 generations. So I'm not expecting. I don't think anybody's gonna. You're not gonna transition into a light being, in my opinion, right now. But we have to. We can transform the blood over time, and that to me is that's the exploration, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't claim to know this. We're just exploring some ideas here, but I think that is that's the kind of thing to kind of look at and think about, and and I think that is where that is at. Let me see here. So what I want to do, I actually want to bring up. I'm gonna bring up a video that I haven't posted yet. If I can find it. So I posted up a couple things. Let's do this. Okay. Oh, this is just a short. Maybe I never did the. Okay, well I'm gonna show you this. I posted this on Instagram, and so I'm gonna show you this. And I'm gonna play a little music. I'm gonna take a quick break, and I'm gonna come back and I'll talk to you guys in the chat section, and then we will wrap up the office hours. So this is let's see here. Actually, you know what? I might be able to. Let me try something real quick. So bear with me here. I want to see if I can. This is something hilarious that I just have to show you. Huh. Well. Oh well. So I'm gonna post up this full video, but right now I will let you guys take a look at the at this clip here. Hold on a second. Sorry. Okay. All right.
During play, if I just put him in the gear and then we go immediately do it, it doesn't give him time to transition into his headspace that allows him to express himself as a pony.
When I'm doing pony play, I'm pretty free and wild. I kick the cart.
Wet.
Pass the mucus right here. In loving memory, Emmett Till. Ashe. John Crawford. Ashe. John Crawford.
All right. Yeah. So, welcome back. How did you how'd you like my little pony play? I did not know that. You know, the more you know, you learn something every day. I didn't know that pony play was a thing, and yeah, that. So I got a whole review video of that I need to put out, as I put that little like 30 second. Those of you that, if you know anything about vaporwave, you'll know that song that I posted in there. But let's take a look. I don't know if you'll be able to see the chat here, but I haven't had a chance to look through these yet. So whatever's on here is I'm gonna be reading it with you here. Let's see here. So we got greetings, family, greetings, conscious vegan. Another good one. I'm on time this time. Well, thank you. I'm gonna mess that up. Abacham Jones. Thank you for plugging in. And hi everybody, Kristen, Albin, Jared, greetings, Sergio. He said, I'm eating a baked potato. And hell is awaiting you. Yes, you be gone. You're eating a baked potato. That is sacrilegious. Let's see here. I'm saying it's buffering. Yeah, I think there was some issues there. Okay, here goes Brother Air was checking out. He said, me and Dana checking you out. Greetings. Yeah, so it was lagging. Hopefully the lag was taken care of. Glad to see you on, Professor Spira. Buffering really bad. Yes, I'm sorry. Let's see. Nafisha saying menstruation is not natural. My menstruation became more and more bearable and shorter each month. Then it began to space out, and I didn't get one every month. And she says last year I got 2 that were each 2 days long and barely noticeable. Then I went through a healing reaction at the beginning of this year, and I felt like I was on my deathbed. For 2 weeks straight, I bled like crazy and eliminated black blood clots and puckus. I like that. Puckus and mucus. I no longer have one. I noticed that when I do eat cooked mucus lean, then symptoms do come back. I cramp badly, and like I said, I will get the period. If I were to go back to eating decayed flesh, I'm sure my period would come back. We have been dubbed into thinking it's natural, but it's not. It's just another way for the body to eliminate waste. And I appreciate your testimony, Sister Nafisha, and which I hope I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But yes, I mean, your story, I've heard that. You know, there's consistencies that I've heard from women that practice the Mucusless diet. And like I said, the one consistency that I've heard from every woman that I know that's practicing Mucusless diet that still had their menses was that when they weren't going through a healing crisis and when they were on, what they were eating was a little cleaner, then the menses would be very light, if anything. It would be a very short period of time compared to what was happening before, not a whole lot of bleeding, and the symptoms would be bearable. And so that's something that I have heard, so I appreciate your input on that. Sorry about that. Let's see, we got Sam tuning in. Greetings, Sam. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Kristen. Fruitopian in the house. Fruitopian. Fruitopia, yeah, I remember drinking that stuff growing up. Okay. Johnny says I'm the enema voice tonight. Well, I'm glad. You know, I know that we would always get stories when we used to do the radio show. People would talk about that's what they would do. The radio show, the Immortality Pipeline, me and Brother Air. That would be when they would do their enema. They would do their enema when we had our show. You know, and that would be like part of their enema ritual. You know, they put on the Immortality Pipeline and check it out. And so that's cool. So let's see. I think that's probably about it for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and you know, it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to come out here and just speak directly to you and try to answer a few of your questions. And if you want me to answer more questions, the link should be down in the description to I got a little sign up form, and I just try to go through there, and we'll just do a couple questions every week here, as long as I do this session. But yeah, the final thing, if you don't know what we're talking about. And when I talk about the book, we're talking about the Mucusless Diet Healing System, and this is the annotated, revised, and edited version that I came out with in 2013. And it was something that came about where I made it for myself, and then I thought maybe other people would like it. As I had basically put together an electronic document where I put notes in the margins that kind of analyzed and explained things. And then I started floating that idea to people, and people was like, well, I want a copy. And then I kept talking to people, and they would be like, he'd be like, yeah, I want a copy of it. So I just decided, well, let me make it. Let me do it for real. And so the annotated Mucusless Diet came out of that. And also, talked about the e-course. Again, that's dropping. We're going to start, I think next Wednesday, I want to have the first class, to have it unleashed and open, so you'll be able to get the sales page and all that kind of stuff early next week, and then it'll be available to get started on Wednesday. That's my plan. That's my date. So if you want the early bird access, get it now, because it's once the class starts, I'm not opening it back up for a while. It's gonna be, I'm gonna let this class go through, and we're gonna, like I said, kind of have that interactive experience with the e-course that you won't have in the future in normal situations. So I want to again thank you so much for plugging in. If you had problems with the connection, I apologize. I'm a really try to research this and figure out what's going on, because I know my speed, there shouldn't be any problem on my end with the speed. Maybe the settings aren't perfect, and so this is a second of this format. Is I'm using kind of a different format here, and so this is the second time I've used this format. So hopefully, hopefully I can figure out what the problem is and get, because like right now it says stream status good, but it keeps, and I don't know why it keeps changing. So this kind of tells what's happening, and then they say they're not getting the data at the fast enough rate, which, like I said, my upload speed is like 40 or so. It's not slow. It's about as fast as they have around here where I am in terms of internet. It's as fast as it gets. So yeah. Take a quick look here. So anyway, so to be sure, sign up, take a look at everything, and got a lot of great things coming in the future. So thank you so much for plugging in, and until next time, peace, love, and breath.